Well, we started in breaking news, and our guest in the center seat is very special. He's the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, of the great state of Texas. Good to see you.
It is great to be here.
I want to just lean on your legal expertise and leadership in all of it as you look. You heard Olivia Enos talking about how the United States should get involved, what that would look like. What are your thoughts?
A couple of things come to mind. I've been to both Hong Kong and mainland China. It's been several years ago, and you're in one country where you really feel free when you're in, or a city, Hong Kong. And then you go to the mainland and you realize it's a totally different world. And what we're seeing is a clash of people who love freedom and liberty. We ought to remember this as we come up on our upcoming elections, because a lot of our current election talk is about liberty and the freedom that people have. And no one should be surprised of what's happening, because this was inevitable. There was going to be a point where freedom came up against communism, and that's where we are. Here's an interesting, because I'm watching this. When you go down to our border, we have had huge signs in Chinese on our border. So when people come across the border illegally, there are signs in Spanish and Chinese. That's how many people we've had come in from China. And we believe most of these are either the government is sending, they're all young people, well educated for the most part. How did they get from China to Mexico and to Texas? Or they are coming from families who are trying to get their kids to America. I think we're going to see bigger numbers of these families trying to get their young college students to America.
I wonder, what is the best that Hong Kong can hope for out of this? I mean, the idea that Beijing has been baking on this handover in 2047.
Right.
There obviously, as we get closer, to me, it always seemed like it was a situation that was going to ignite. What's the best that they can hope for? Would China release their grip?
China's not going to release their grip.
No.
That's not who they are. And the best that these young protesters can hope for is that they're not dragged off to the mainland and put in a jail and never see the light of day again. That's the best they can hope for. This is we're watching a history here. This is I think back to Reagan and the falling of the wall. This is this moment in history right now. And history is interesting. We always think when we look back on history that we knew the outcome,
right?
But we didn't.
Very true.
History is just events in the context of the time we're in.
Yeah.
And right now we don't know where this is going to end, but it's not going to end well for freedom and liberty in Hong Kong.
Dagan, I know you've been taking a close look at the trade talks have gone on. And so the irony, if you will, because China is so much apart from what the Lieutenant Governor was saying with what's playing out right now and from our reporting as well in Hong Kong. But what does this do for our relationship in terms of talking trade? We saw an ease back, a delay, if you will, in some of those tariffs for goods, and perhaps just a sign that we really want to talk and so on and so forth. But this complicates matters.
It is telling that basically the delay on those tariffs, and we're talking about, instead of going into effect September the 1st, the additional 10% tariffs on $300 billion in imported goods, they get delayed on many major items and categories, smartphones, laptops, toys, and other items until December the 15th. I think that the timing is important here, that we are trying to calm the waters, if you will, in terms of the trade negotiations. But there is a why now in relation to these Hong Kong protests that we should point out. And it was Hong Kong, the police force that a former deputy commissioner of the police force, his name's Alan Lau, returned to the force in recent days, and that's when the tactics changed. He is considered kind of a tough hardliner on protesters. You had police that charged protesters in a subway station, hitting them with billy clubs, blasting pepper balls as they fell down escalators. There was another protest in another subway station. So again, the why now is they're bringing out of retirement a former officer known to support hardline crackdowns on protesters. So something's got to give in relation to that. And the police force apparently is divided about the tactics. And you also have to factor in there's a garrison from the People's Liberation Army out of China that's on the ground in Hong Kong.
All right. I don't know if you can tell this, and Jay Sirocco is our EP in the booth. I want him to put eyes on screen. Is this live right now? Because this situation right now has gotten decidedly more chaotic
Yeah.
since we've been sitting here. There were hardly any people in the picture on the left side of your screen just a few moments ago. And this is the airport that they hope to take back for activities, we were told, in about 40 minutes.
Well, they hope to close it. They were going to clear it. It closes for the night at 1.
Okay, real quickly, Leslie Marshall, we haven't heard from you before we go to break. We don't have much time, but we'll get you on the flip side. What are your thoughts?
Look, when you have people living under a certain type of government structure and even having a certain type of culture for 100 years, and you flip that as they have in '97, this was expected.
Wow. Okay.
This was expected to happen. I'm not surprised, and sadly, they want democracy, but they won't get it. China won't let go of its grip.
Outnumbered all over the breaking news. Keep watching.